What's going on? It is Sunday, April 2nd, and I'm here live solo today. Hello, Solo Dolo. Also on Instagram to answer questions, whether you have questions about Application Academy, questions about the pre-med process. I'm here to answer any question. But specifically wanted to come on and also answer questions about Application Academy if you have any questions about Application Academy, because today is the last day to sign up. If you are applying in 2023 to start med school in 2024, then let's talk about it. So if you want to ask questions about Application Academy, you can do so. If you want to come on live with me, whether on Instagram, I can bring some people live, or on the platform that I use, StreamYard, we can bring you on live as well. I can send you a link and we can go live as well. So let's have some fun. If you have questions, let me know. What do I think about problem-based learning med schools? Is it as unorganized as it sounds? No, I actually love PBL. It's awesome, but not every student will like it. Let me just type one thing here. Application Academy. All right. So if you have questions, let's chat. All right. I think if I come on live here, do we ask questions through the chat? Yes, Patrick, you can ask questions through that chat. Or if you want to come on live with me, Patrick, here on YouTube, you can do that as well. I will let you go. How soon can a student join Application Academy tonight? Hello there. What's going on?
Hey, Dr. Greg. Love Application Academy. So it's a plug. It's not getting paid. Amazing, you guys. I hear a lot of. I keep on watching that video you have on YouTube regarding when's the last day you can apply and still be early.
Yeah.
If I'm applying and what you say in the video is, yes, there's a timing aspect of it, and if you take the MCAT, and have everything in by the end of July, you're still pretty early.
Yep.
You're still in the early phase.
Yep.
So I just pushed my MCAT forward, the last date. So my MCAT comes in the last day of July.
Okay.
But so that falls into your parameters.
Yep.
But I'm from the Lone Star State right now. And does that affect anything? Is that still run? Is that what you say is still true?
Yeah, so Texas is always kind of the outlier with timelines. June and July are still okay, right? Because May is an early month for Texas. TMDSAS historically hasn't had a delay between when you can submit and when it opens and when you can submit. Last year they changed that. Now there's a delay of about 2 weeks, but the data that I saw, and I don't think they have this public, but they shared it with me, is the percentage of students who are applying and get interviews. The most was May, then June, and then July, and then a huge drop off after that. But that is when the application was submitted and not necessarily when the application was complete at the medical school. So it's
Okay.
hard to actually know what that data is. If you're submitting in May and June, but your score doesn't come back till July, are you still considered that whatever earlier time frame? So it's really hard to say. Big picture shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. That's what's pressing on my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. So you're in Application Academy. First of all, for people watching on YouTube right now, can you hear him talking? I think you can. Maybe let me know, just to make sure it's all hooked up okay. So you're in Application Academy. Going well?
Yeah, going well. Yeah, I laughed inside my head when you said, "Well, people are in Application Academy, then they drop off, and then here you are again." And that's where I'm at right now. I dropped off a bit to focus on the MCAT, and because that's the issue when you're running with doing MCAT and application. You have to I have to schedule in time to do to do essays and to prepare and then continue doing MCAT. So a lot of the truth that you've been proclaiming regarding just being consistent, just doing a little bit every day, has really helped. Having the videos to go back through and in your office hours on your application academy does help because I can't get to it because I'm working right now.
Yeah. In your scrubs, for those who can't see.
And my scrubs, yeah, they don't know I'm here.
That's a really long bathroom break, buddy.
And then I think the last thing I said is I had shadowing experience early last year, but that was just for like 15 hours. Moved to Lone Star State. I haven't done anything yet aside from your, again, it's good, but it's your e-shadowing.
E-shadowing, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that like a big red flag?
Yeah, I mean, shadowing is important, and e-shadowing, as someone just asked as well, is virtual shadowing is fine to put on the application. It was great during COVID when nobody was shadowing, but people are shadowing now. So it shouldn't be the main shadowing experience. It shouldn't be the current shadowing experience. But if you're still doing it, great. Put it on the application and try to get some in person as well.
Awesome. Hey, appreciate all you do.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Hey, one more thing. I signed up early to MappedCon, just putting it out there. And you have a non-trad, like a dinner or like a meetup.
Old pre-meds. Yeah, there's an old pre-meds night that night. So we're gonna have some non-trad guests, and we're gonna have some fun.
Got it.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. See ya.
All right. MappedCon, October 6th through 8th in Baltimore, for those of you who don't know what MappedCon is. I did include a link to join me that should show up on YouTube chat comments and on the Medical School HQ Facebook page as well. So let me know. You can go to that link, and it should bring you in as a guest into my streaming platform here. So let me know. Is it too late to get in-person shadowing? No, it's not too late, but I would get it as soon as you can. Megana, in Application Academy, do all students get a chance to have their personal statement reviewed, even though it is a group setting? Yeah, so we haven't really had any big complaints or any complaints really of like, I never get my stuff reviewed. We review in a group setting. That is how we review things. You submit stuff, and we review the submissions in a random order. So I go through and kind of just throw my mouse wheel and land at a submission. We review it. We take a note of what was actually reviewed at that point, and then we move on. And so you get feedback not only from the instructor, but also from your peers. And then we also have TA sessions as well, where students can get more reviews. So we're up to 15 sessions a week in Application Academy, which is crazy. We have had, I think it was last year maybe, where we did a session or two for people who told us, hey, I submit and I've never had anything reviewed. We listened to that, and we had a day or two where we only took submissions from people who hadn't had anything reviewed yet. And we only had to do it once, maybe twice, if my memory serves me correctly. So it's typically not a problem. J. Bowser on IG. I signed up for Academy this year, but as of last month, decided to apply next year, taking the MCAT in September. Is preparing for apps this early an issue? It's not an issue, but if you decide, so let's say you're either struggling with your MCAT or you get your score back on April 11th or April 25th, and you decide, I don't want to apply, just email us. We'll either push your enrollment a year, or if you're signing up like today, but you're getting your score back in 2 weeks and you want to wait, it's like, just sign up. And then if you decide not to apply, we'll refund you. That's how we'll do it. Despite having a 95th percentile, would a 3.25 GPA block me from an invitation at out-of-state schools? So it depends, Carlos. If you don't know, what we do in terms of mapped is we really want to see what your story is with that 3.25. You could have a 3.25 GPA and your your last 40 credit hours are a 4.0. So it really just depends on what the story is behind that 325. Bilmo, if you're applying or taking the MCAT July 28th, should I still apply the cycle? Yeah, I think you still can. And you need to get your application in earlier. So your application will just won't be complete until the until you get your MCAT score back. So there will be a delay between when you submit and when medical schools may actually, quote unquote, look at your application in terms of, is it complete? Is it not complete? When may we send a secondary? Potentially, if they screen for secondaries. But a July 28th MCAT alone won't kill your application. If you're not going to start working on your application until after you take the MCAT, then yes, then just wait to apply until next cycle. That is one potential thing you can do. On Instagram, can you talk a little bit about committee letters? I graduated undergrad last year. My school offers one, but I'm not eligible. Then you don't have to worry about it. Grace. Nothing to worry about, Grace. If you don't get one, then don't worry about it. Most students applying don't have access to a committee letter. So no worries. Not an issue. I did very well on my MD app this cycle. Now I'm just struggling to select a choice. A good problem to have. Would love to come on as a guest. Yeah, come on as a guest. We'll bring you on. Just request to join live. We'll get you on. Nikoko. Awesome. Request to join live here on Instagram. We'll bring you on. And then again, if you want to come on live. Oh, we got some people here. All right.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Grace. Sorry.
What's up?
I was muting the lives of the YouTube stream. So I was just, I looked a little bit dazed. Okay, so my question is, so I'm not sure if you remember me, but I did text or send a message working as a scribe in the emergency department for about 3 years. I'm at 1,900 hours. I stopped because they no longer had a per diem position. So that's, and then when I asked you guys, what should I do? And you guys, your first questions were stop. And if I picked up like another position, would that look suspicious to like the committees? What's your take?
Suspicious in what way?
Suspicious in oh, look at this guy. He was working 3 years and stopped, and then all of a sudden, it came close to your application. You picked up another.
You start again. And what would be the delay between the two?
I stopped in May of 2022, and
Okay.
haven't nothing until.
Okay. I mean, what's the option? The option is you just don't start, but I would rather you start than not start. So it is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're overthinking it, which
I think
welcome
I am.
to the club.
I think I am. Thanks for. I think I have one other question as well.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. I have, in terms of letters of rec, I have 2 from doctors. I have 1 from a non-science. I have 0 from the science ones.
Yeah. So, I mean, the letter of rec question is very easy and straightforward. You have to go to each individual medical school that you're applying to and look at what their requirements are. They may say we want 2 science letters, and if you have 0, they're not going to look at your application. So unless they give you kind of a waiver, right? Any sort of free pass to say, oh yeah, we'll take a look at your application. Don't worry about letters of rec. So you may have to either do some groundwork to get the letters that are required, or reach out to each of the individual medical schools and go, hey, here's my situation. Here's why I can't get the letters that you are saying you require. I think it's probably, without knowing the exact data because it's not available, I would probably say a big reason why many people aren't getting into schools, super well qualified students, is they're not looking at the individual letter of recommendation requirements and actually doing that. So be careful.
Could you elaborate on that? Sorry, I guess
No, yeah. So if you apply to University of Florida, right? I'm wearing my Gator shirt. If you apply to University of Florida Medical School and they require 2 science and 1 non-science, and you apply with 2 physician letters and a non-science letter, then they will never, theoretically, they will never consider your application complete. So they will never look at your application because you're missing letters that they require. I think that probably happens a lot more than we think it does to students who are probably very well qualified in terms of stats and their application was good enough, etc.
And one last question.
Yeah.
I recently got a letter from a STEM supervisor that I work with as a tutor.
Okay.
Do you think that would count?
No, they have to be your professor. Yeah. Typically, that's what exactly they're looking for. Again, reach out to some schools. If you think you're going to be kind of borderline there, reach out to some schools and see what they say.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr.
You're welcome. Awesome. So this was that was a good first test. The sound obviously wasn't great. I'm sorry. It was in a loud environment. But that was a good first test. Again, if you want to come on live, I'll paste the link again on YouTube to come on live, and then we can bring people on live here on Instagram as well. Going live in a couple places. Just a reminder, Application Academy enrollment closes today. If you are applying, I should have asked that guest real quick before he left if he was going to be in Application Academy. It is the best thing that we offer. It is one of the cheapest ways to get a ton of advice from experts to help you with your application. applicationacademy.com. Hello there.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
My name is Nico, by the way.
Nico, what's up?
And I just want to say that you've been so helpful. I think I've probably been using your resources since 2018, 2019,
Nice.
somewhere around there. Early as like the pre-med years. And I remember I used to work and like mow a lot of lawns for like the city, and I'll just pop it in.
Nice.
Listening to like.
So not only was I providing you information and hopefully a little entertainment, but I was also protecting your hearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm like very well versed in everything you've done, and I think that honestly that it's contributed a lot to my success and my cycle this year. And I think that so I just wanted to give you a plug there, from the podcast to the books to I use the blueprint, prep
Nice
for my MCAT, and now I'm just in the spot where I'm trying to decide on what school I want to go to.
So how many acceptances are you sitting on?
9.
What? 9. Not 1. You're like LeBron. Not 2. Not 3. 9.
9.
Wow.
And,
okay.
Yeah, and a couple still waitlisted on as well.
Dude, just drop those. Like, save some for the rest of us.
Yeah, I stopped doing interviews. I didn't think I would be that successful. I think that, like I said, I went in really humble, and I think I overestimated how many I needed to apply to. I applied to 30 schools, but my MCAT was going to expire this year. I'm not taking that again.
Yeah, no, thank you. Okay.
I was like, I'm doing this once. I took time off from school.
Okay.
To make sure that I was doing it the right way.
Okay.
And I pretty much put all my, eggs.
Well, we'll get you on the podcast and share your story why you're so successful.
I would love to
yeah. So the question is, how do you decide between the 9 schools?
So I think I went off a couple of different metrics that are most important for me. Location. So for me, I want to one day work in an environment that is similar to where I'm at right now. I'm from Illinois, from Northern Illinois, right outside Chicago.
Okay. I have a Milwaukee meetup in like 2 weeks. You gonna come?
I mean, that's one of the schools I got into, MCW.
All right.
Maybe, yeah. So location, family support, because that's one thing I've always had growing up. I went to community college, then I went to school here, and I kind of sacrificed on the schools I went to save money. And now I always put it in my head as, okay, I want to spend the big bucks on like medical school, because I've sort of rationed up until this point.
Okay.
But I'm facing an option where I have like a very cheap, good school.
Okay.
But it's so close that I really want to get out a little bit more. And my brother lives in Dallas.
Okay.
So one of my other options is TCU, who
Okay.
just finally got their first class to match. Like they finally have their data out, and it's really good. But
Okay.
it's very expensive
Yeah.
comparatively.
Yeah.
Really expensive. And I think that
like twice as much expensive, 3 times as much expensive. Like, what are we talking?
2.5, I'd say.
So a
Yeah.
lot. So if you're going to
and
graduate
the cost
with
of living is very different as well.
more expensive or cheaper?
More expensive. But
Okay.
I'd be with my brother where I'd have more support. He can help me out. Like he's older. He knows what he's
Okay.
doing. He's
Yeah.
been there.
I think most people would probably tell you go with the cheaper option.
Yeah.
Especially when it's that much, right? If it's a difference, like if you're looking at $50,000 a year versus $60,000 a year, whatever, like move, get out of
Yeah.
town, go explore. But if you're looking at $50,000 a year versus like 65, 75, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. It's more
And-
like 40 versus 100.
Are you comparing apples to apples, like not just tuition versus total
Right.
cost of attendance? You're doing cost of attendance for both?
Yeah.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
that different.
Yeah. And that's what because my brother was in the Air Force. So
Okay.
I try to explain, because, I have people pulling me in different directions, and he's one of them. And I try to explain it to him this way. well, if he was based in Destin, right? Florida, beautiful there.
Yeah.
And I told him, well, what if they paid you 200 extra grand to go and stay in like Rockford, right? Illinois, like a city that's a lot smaller, a lot less to do. On paper, is not many attractions. Would you do it? And he's like, oh, yeah, that's tough.
So I'm assuming, right, University of Illinois is the school that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But you're at a branch campus out kind of in the
Rockford.
boonies.
Yeah.
And you can't change that. Like they've already assigned you and you can't say, no, I want the Chicago campus.
Right.
That's a bummer. Yeah. I think ultimately it's a really hard question. The first question that comes to mind is, where do you think you will be most successful? Because that will have a potential bearing on where you match, on the specialty that you match in or are able to match in, which will potentially have a bearing on your earning potential as well. So like if you're like, if I go to the Rockford campus in the middle of nowhere, I'm not going to be super excited. My grades may not be great. I may not get AOA. And I'm going to match family medicine, right? And I'm going to make $150 a year. But I really want to match orthopedics. And if I go to this other campus, I think I'm going to be more excited. I'll have more support. I'm going to whatever. And all of my scores and my recommendations are going to support that because I'm a better student there. Then I'm going to be able to match into a more competitive specialty, the one that I actually want. And I'm going to make $400 a year versus $150 a year. Then at the end of the day, I really don't like making those types of decisions because it's completely way out there. And so much can change between now and then in terms of what you're interested in. And I 1,000% don't think anyone should be chasing a specialty based on their earning potential. So it's hard, right? At the end of the day, it's really, really hard. And the best advice is just go with your gut, which is the worst advice.
And my gut tells me up until this point, I maybe it's a little naive, but I've always thought that that at the individual level, that's what makes the biggest difference, no matter where you're
100%.
at. Right? And up until this point, I've been pit up against people who are from Princeton, Yale, wherever, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm from Illinois Valley Community College. Shout out to them, great school, right? And so I always put a chip on my shoulder.
Okay.
And I think for that reason, I can still do that at the medical school level.
Of course.
But I kind of have chatter from other people that are saying, well, the size of your like alumni network is what makes a huge difference, matching in the residencies or this and that. And in my head, I want to ignore it, but at the same time, it's like, well, I do have a more prestigious option I could choose.
Networks are great. Networks are great, but mean, just based on that one statement, TCU doesn't have an alumni network.
Right.
So I think networking is huge, and the University of Illinois system is huge. And being a student out at a branch campus will give you access to the main campus in Chicago. And so if you want to try to get research and stuff there, then you will be able to. So I 1,000% agree. It's on the individual to be successful. So yeah. Oh yeah, terrible. 9 acceptances. Terrible to decide. Yeah, I think you probably know what's best. Both short term and long term potentially is kind of fuzzy because you just don't know what's that far out.
No, yeah, and I think I like the idea of creating something from new, though. That's something that's really important for me because one of the big parts of my application was during the pandemic, I opened a pharmacy for Meyer from scratch. So I was there, I was their first patient.
Nice.
And building that, being a part of that. And I think that the fact that when something's so new, even if it's not for the right reason, they have to be so invested in their product because that's all they have right now.
Yeah.
So I am their product as a student, so to speak. So I kind of have the guarantee that were going to want me to succeed as much as I can.
Yeah.
All right. That form of marketing for them. So
yeah, keep me posted. I'm interested to hear. And then reach out and we'll send you a link to get you on the podcast.
Yeah, I submitted.
You submitted? Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Good luck, Nico.
Good work.
All right. Awesome. Let's get Pierce on. Hello, Pierce.
Hey, Dr. Gray. How's it going?
It's going. What's going on?
Can you hear me all right?
I can. You sound great.
Awesome. I have 2 questions today. The first one, I'm a Texas resident, and I have watched a lot of application renovation videos. As I begin to work through the primary kind of template that my undergraduate institution offers, I'm realizing there's quite a bit of difference between AMCAS and TMDSAS descriptions, activity descriptions. And so I was going to ask you, how should I approach those descriptions differently than AMCAS? How can I work with that too? Obviously 300 characters is a lot shorter, but what is your recommendation to be able to still show what I need to show on those?
Yeah, you just do what you can do. Unfortunately, is the at the end of the day, all that you can do. 400 or 300 characters, 400 character difference is a ton. And so we do have some application renovation videos. I was looking, our first episode should have gone out for our new season, and I believe it was a TMDSAS application. And really that student did. And when you see me review TMDSAS applications on application renovation, I basically skip over the essay descriptions, the activity descriptions, because there's really not much to say other than, yep, you did about as good as you could have done. So
sure,
there really isn't much to do other than potentially basic job description, maybe trying to focus a little bit on impact, but you're not going to storytell in 300 characters, unfortunately.
Sure. Okay, that's super helpful.
I yell at them all the time. All right, I'm friends with the TMDSA folks. I'm like, why are you like handcuffing these students? They can't really tell anything. Like, I think at the end of the day, it hurts the schools because the students aren't able to really show who they are in that 300 characters.
Yeah, no, I agree. Second question for you today. As far as the optional essay goes for TMDSAS, somebody who doesn't come from a disadvantaged background, is there any direction on what exactly I should highlight of my character, who I am in that essay, as opposed to having something already that I could talk about?
You're talking about for the optional essay, kind of is there anything else you want to tell us essay?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think if you're not going to use it as a kind of a pseudo disadvantaged essay, or now that AMCAS has actually officially announced finally to students that they're getting rid of the disadvantaged essay, it's now going to be the other impactful experiences essay. I think that's the same mindset that you take with this one. Is there anything not from a disadvantaged lens point of view, but from a here are my experiences in my life that may add some context to my application. Here's what I want to let you know, right? think about it from that angle of how can I add some context potentially to who I am, to what I've been through, to how I've gotten here today.
Okay, that's very helpful. One last thing I want to ask you,
Yeah.
just because I have had some thoughts about it and I don't know how it's going to affect how reviewers look at my application. I have a parent that's a physician, and I understand
Okay.
that my story has to be very different from just have a parent
Yeah.
that's a physician, and I feel.
Keep
Go
going.
ahead.
Keep going.
I was just gonna ask you, how should I approach that? As I know in a lot of the application renovation videos, that's a big red flag. Not red flag, but you're on high alert when you read an application like that. And so should I not even mention that at all? Or is if it's a part of kind of my story, can I mention it a little? Or what's your take on having a
No,
parent that's a physician?
I think you have to mention it, because I
Okay.
think it's part of your story. I think students who have a physician parent who don't mention it, uh, are the most confusing students ever, because I'm trying to understand your story and something's missing. And then I ask, and they're like, "Oh, my dad's a doctor," right? I tell the story every once in a while. I was working with a student a couple years ago, and her personal statement just wasn't making sense to me. There was something missing. And I finally asked, and I don't know why it took me so long, because we had been working together for a while. And I finally asked, I'm like, "What do your parents do?" And she's like, "Well, my mom's a doctor, my dad's a PA." And I was like, "Oh, that explains everything," because it just reading her personal statement, it skipped too much. It went from 0 to 100 too fast, of like, "I'm a soccer player, I got injured, I want to be a doctor," which is a very common
Yeah.
story of a
Mhm.
sports injury leading to wanting to be a physician. There was just something missing in her explanation of the impact of that story. And then one sentence of being able to explain having that exposure as a kid to two parents who are obviously healthcare providers changed the whole meaning of what happened to her and why that injury had so much impact on her. It completely changed. And so I was like, "Oh," and it was just one sentence in her personal statement. It didn't have to be the whole personal statement. So I think that's a big misconception when you're talking about parents who are physicians. I don't think you should avoid it. And you also shouldn't kind of just make it your whole essay. Just one sentence potentially is enough to
Right.
give, again, that context of who you are, where you've come from.
Okay.
The
So
biggest
that makes
issue,
a lot of sense.
yeah, the biggest issue with parents who are physicians is the students themselves aren't able to really communicate why they're doing this. They don't have enough clinical experience. They don't have enough shadowing. And what it looks like to the reviewer is, mommy's a doctor, daddy's a doctor, therefore I want to be a doctor, right? And that's what you don't want to get across.
Yeah. Okay. Now that makes sense of kind of having a balance between not too much, but also it's an important part of the story, so you need to mention it. So,
Yeah. Are you joining
thank you
Application
very
Academy?
much. I haven't even looked at it, but I know it closes tonight, so I might take a look at it tonight.
Here's my Zoom face. Ah! Take a
Thank
look
you
at
so
it.
much.
Yes.
Okay.
It is the best thing we do.
Absolutely.
All
Thank you for
right.
your help.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
All right. Kick from studio. I like bringing guests on there. All right. Back to Instagram. I know there's lots of questions coming in. Again, Application Academy enrollment closes tonight. If you're applying this year to start med school next year, applicationacademy.com. Hello, Amanda.
Hi.
How
Can
are
you hear
you?
me okay?
I can.
I'm good. Okay. Thank you. So I watched some of the personal statement workshops, both the seed one and the watering event one.
Okay.
And I just have a question how to kind of keep a good level between not stating that you want to do more, like from say volunteering to being a doctor.
Yep.
And then also not being put in the box where it's like, oh, well, you can do that as a nurse or you can do that as a social worker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of just,
I don't think
have to find a good
there's
level.
always that concern of like, but if I don't say this one magic thing, which is typically, right, it's very stereotypical, and it's fun with Application Academy because I'll call it out and then students will see it 5 different times on that same essay review day of like, the most stereotypical one is when students who are EMTs or emergency room volunteers will talk about the orchestra of the trauma room and how the physician is the maestro, the conductor of the orchestra, right? The leader. That is the most cliche thing, and I see it 100 times a year from students of like, this is just for whatever reason the go-to metaphor that students use. I don't think you have to, right? At the end of the day, being a physician, being a PA, being an MP, the day-to-day inner workings of taking care of some very specific patients is similar, right? Especially if you're taking care of primary care patients. It's a very similar job. And so I don't think you have to get that nuance in terms of how you write your essays to make sure that the reader knows that you want to be a physician versus a PA versus an MP versus a whatever. I think the real answer comes down to, well, I want the most knowledge to be able to take care of the most amount of patients, right? I don't want to be limited in any way in terms of my knowledge and in terms of my scope of practice, right? What I'm actually able to, privileged is the term, right? What you're credentialed to do in the hospital. That's the biggest difference at the end of the day between an MDDO and a PA, an MP, a DPM, right? A podiatrist. And so in essays, there really isn't much to say. In your activity descriptions, there really isn't much to say in terms of making that little nuanced differentiation. I don't think you need to focus on it.
Okay. Yeah. And I also have a different kind of more broad question. So do you have any just specific tips for international students who chose to go for it, even though it's going to be hard and a lot of people tell you not to?
Yeah. First, the people who tell you not to are dumb because they're international students getting into med schools every year, right? Yes, your chances are less because there are less medical schools that will actually look at international students. And and so that makes it harder. So there really isn't much difference, right? You're using the same application. It's not like you have a different application service that you're using as an international applicant. The only difference is your citizenship is going to not be the United States. And so I think at the end of the day, you're doing everything that everyone else is doing. You just have to hope that the schools that you're applying to, hopefully you put some work into making sure that you're only applying to those international friendly schools, and then cross your fingers. Right? I think that's about it.
Yeah. And lastly, I just want to thank you so much for all the free resources that you put out. It's incredibly helpful,
Good.
Especially as an international student who did not particularly know how everything goes with applications and stuff in the US.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to help.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, we do a ton of free stuff. And tonight is the last night of Application Academy enrollment. If you're applying in 2023 to start med school in 2024, applicationacademy.com. It's not free, but it's probably the most valuable thing we do. Hello, Elisa.
Hello.
Hi.
Wow. Look at me. I'm on here. Okay.
Look at you.
So sorry. Got a little bit of a voice issue. So sorry if I don't sound so great. But
right.
I just feel like I got a ton of ideas for my personal statement, but also none. I don't know. So I'm just struggling like where to even start. And I keep hearing this character count, and it's just making me so nervous because I don't know how I'm supposed to talk about it all. So I don't know if I could just kind of like put some of those ideas out there and see what you think. Okay.
Let's go for it.
So going off of what that other guy said, I do have tons of family in healthcare. Dad's a ER doctor, mom's an ER nurse, sister's a ER PA. So that's obviously been an influence. I spent a lot of time avoiding it, said I didn't like science. I was like the black sheep. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I'm dyslexic. And so I really struggled with like education in the beginning of my years in grade school. My mom kind of put this idea in my head. She didn't intentionally mean to, but when I would ask her, like, why didn't you pursue medical school? She said that, with her dyslexia, it was just too hard. She
Okay.
thought that she was like mentally retarded up until, she was found out that she actually had dyslexia. So I think that kind of put some idea in my head that I couldn't necessarily do it. So I avoided it for so long.
Okay.
You can see that in my track in college. And then I kindly found like everything just pulling me towards it. I did clinical experience. I was a scribe in the ER,
Okay.
and I got the exposure and I loved it. And
Okay.
now I'm just trying to figure out, where to find the bridge between all of this because
Yeah.
everyone keeps on asking me, well, how do you connect it back to medicine? Because I've talked about like, I
Connect
have
what back to medicine?
so I have a love for like active services and
Yep.
education and like teaching,
Yep.
facilitating like
We
learning.
don't need to talk about any of that.
Okay.
Right.
So
So here's my broad statement if you haven't heard it on the personal statement. The
Mhm.
personal statement solely, in my opinion, is why do you want to be a doctor? Not why do you think you're going to be a good doctor? Not what skills do you think you have that are going to help you be a doctor? Not what have you done to prepare yourself to be a doctor? Why do you want to be a doctor? Right. And trying to avoid the cliche thing of I like service, therefore I want to be a doctor. Because the truth is, right, service is just being a good human being should be anyone in life and not just physicians. You can go work an NGO, go work at a nonprofit, right? Go do lots of things in the name of service. So
Mhm.
for you, I don't think any of what you just talked about really matters in terms of your reason for wanting to be a physician, other than you had lots of exposure early on to medicine. You decided not to pursue it until you did, right? And
Mhm.
it's until you did decide to pursue it, that's where kind of your story picks up. And
Mhm.
that's where you go down this path of, okay, since I made that decision that this is potentially what I want to do, right? And there's probably something in there that you were like, oh crap, like I've been trying to avoid this, but I need to figure out how to get there, right? There's probably some lead up to that. What I typically call the seed, right?
Mhm.
Is what exposure did you have? Not necessarily the first exposure, right? Because the first exposure to you is having all of your family members in healthcare. But for you, it's going to be that exposure that finally made you go, oh man, like I need to go do this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily knew what I was pursuing in college, but I was definitely very interested in all the subjects, all the prerequisites.
Yeah.
And then I became a scribe.
When did you officially say, like, raise your hand and go, I'm pre-med?
Not until I was, like, undeclared until, like, my 3rd year in college. So,
Okay.
it wasn't until, like, after I took, I think, I don't know, physics of all courses.
Were you like a like you say not I was undeclared, but were you really a pre-med? Like just an undercover pre-med? You just didn't want to say it for fear of rejection?
I mean, it doesn't look that way in the first 2 years of college. I was doing, like, everything. I was doing, like,
Okay.
anthropology and, like,
Okay.
I only took literally, like, Bio 101 because I was so scared of science for whatever reason.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I ended up just following more into it and I liked the courses, so I kept going towards it. But truthfully, I did not even know when I graduated college what I wanted to do. And, everyone kept telling me, okay, you need to go, you need to get into the hospital, you need to figure out how things work. So I became a scribe.
But why were people telling you that?
I think maybe because they saw the interest, but I wasn't able to explain why I had this interest. And so we thought maybe that, the exposure was gonna
Okay.
help me
Yeah. So for
find
you,
that.
I think it's going to be a lot of soul searching to figure out where and why that interest started percolating again or percolating for the first time.
Okay, so I mean, I think I have ideas, but I don't know, they just feel so, like, lame, for the lack of a better term, but
No, but see, lame is okay as long as it's authentic.
okay.
Right? Where students go wrong is they think it has to be this grandiose, like, oh my gosh, amazing, like lightning strike of a thing, and it doesn't, and it usually isn't. It's just it needs to be authentic to you to go, this was my truth. And the more that you can focus on your authentic truth and your authentic story, which is all we do in Application Academy, is trying to get students to focus on their authenticity, the easier things get, because then you're not focused on writing for the schools. You're just telling your story. And then it's like, oh, this is easy. And then when you get to your interviews, oh, this is easy because all I'm doing is being authentic and telling the truth.
Well, so I mean, then to kind of just answer that, I think what was most attractive to like the whole medical field was really specific to the ER though. So I don't know
But
if
you were already in the ER.
yeah.
Right. So you have to keep going backwards, right? Walk
Okay.
backwards.
Okay.
Keep walking backwards, right? Usually these things aren't going to be once you're in
There.
and exposed,
Yeah.
right? So I get all the time, oh, my seed was when I was shadowing. I'm like, no, your seed happens before you started shadowing. The seed is what caused you to want to go shadow, right?
Okay.
So it can't happen in the ER. What led you to finally go, crap, I need to go volunteer in the emergency department, right? What led you to have those conversations with friends and family members for them to realize something in you and them tell you, as you just told us, right? Hey, you need to go volunteer. You need to go put yourself in a clinical environment to start testing this hypothesis. You need to get to that point in your journey. And if you don't remember, that's fine. Go have some conversations and ask those questions.
Okay. Yeah, I think I struggle with that though because like my brother. So everybody's in the med field, and my brother's even
Yeah.
going into medical school. Just got accepted this
Nice.
cycle. So this last cycle. So I feel like what really was part of my story is that I didn't think I could do it because of, whatever my disabilities, all that other
Yep.
stuff. So rather than face failure or rejection, I avoided it because I
Yep.
didn't feel like I was at that standard.
Yep.
And then I realized that, I could do it. And then it was something that I had always wanted to do, but I don't know where that want comes from because
Yeah.
I've always been
And I can't answer that, right? That's just, you have to do some soul searching to figure out,
and then
right?
just keep
Ask some
going.
questions. And it's an exercise I tell students to do all the time, is go ask those questions. Hey, mom, remember when blah, blah, blah. Like what was going on at that time? And I had a student actually in academy recently go, I did that exercise. I asked my mom, and we actually remembered a time when my brother almost died. And I was like, hey, it looks like brother's dying over here. And they went to the ER, had surgery, and I saved him. Basically, it was the student's recollection of that, and that wasn't a memory kind of top of mind for her to go, oh my gosh, that was a really impactful moment in my life when I was 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever it was. It just wasn't something at kind of an easy recall for her. But having that conversation and asking those questions with family members brought it back up.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And then I guess another thing that I have a question about is I'm taking the MCAT May 12th.
Yep.
So how do you feel about that with like
That's fine.
applying?
Yeah.
It's okay, it's fine.
That date's perfectly fine.
Okay, perfectly fine.
Yep.
And then so should I should I wait till I have my score before I do the whole verification thing, or should I
You
like
can. You can, because
does it
if you're taking it
matter?
May 12th, June 12th is perfectly fine to submit then. So
Okay.
that's fine.
So I don't need to worry about like submitting one blind to a throwaway school or something just to like
No,
get
because submissions don't, like, you're only delaying by like 2 weeks, so you'll be
okay.
fine.
Okay, so it's gonna be good. Okay.
Yep.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much for talking to me. Thank you.
Yes.
Have a
Check
good
out
one.
Application Academy. That's what I'm
Okay.
here for. All right. All right. Let's get Dylan, who was waiting patiently, making fun gestures. Dylan, turn your camera off next time if you're going to do that. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, it's going good. Just have a few questions here for you. Should take just 30 seconds. So I actually worked in the ERs and EKG tech for about 500 hours over a year.
Okay.
Again, that experience was from May 2021 to May 2022. So I'm a little worried. Is that too old as a patient experience or patient exposure?
Nothing recent?
Nothing recent. I've volunteered at the hospital And I've continually done that over the last 3 years.
But that's clinical, not clinical?
That's what my other question was, is for the most part, it's been just stalking, not dealing with patients at all. But recently we just changed it where we're actually going in and visiting patients. Oftentimes we're playing games, journaling, a whole bunch of different things with them. So I have half of my hours doing kind of the stalking, and the other half has been with the patients. And so I'm not quite sure how to label that as an experience. And that's where I'm sitting, is how many patient exposure hours do I really have?
Yeah. So if we were to call the experience that you're currently getting not clinical, it's not great that your clinical experience ended a year before your application.
Okay.
Right. Because then it looks like you checked a box. You're like, okay, I got enough hours, done. All right. What's next? And schools just don't like that, because the question will come down to, do you really like being in this clinical setting? And it's a big risk for them to take, for you to go, oh, I really like science, therefore I want to be a doctor. And then you get to your clinical experience years, or even during your preclinical years, where you're precepting and getting some patient exposure, and you're like, oh, this sucks. Like, I don't like patients. I don't want to be around patients. So that's not a great thing. And that's why I harp on consistently versus just, oh, I have 3,000 hours, but they were 3 years ago.
Right.
So if we were to call your current experience not clinical, if we call your current experience clinical, then what you would do is try to split the hours, and you either split the hours into 2 activities and go, okay, one activity is non-clinical, one activity is clinical, and then you just split the time. It's kind of the same date range, but just different hours. And you just split it that way. There's really no rules around it, which makes it confusing and hard. And but you just got to think outside the box a little bit to see how you want to potentially play that. But in terms of trying to figure out if it's clinical, playing games is a little bit hard to say, oh, it's clinical experience, I'm playing games. If you're sitting there having conversations with the patients, they're sitting in their hospital room, and you're keeping them company, then I would probably call that clinical experience.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that was my same word that you mentioned, is just, I don't want it to seem like I just stopped all of a sudden. Part of it was getting married, and then being a student athlete, it's really hard to balance work, school, and being an athlete. And so,
of course, one
thing had to kind of drop out, and that was work at the time. And yeah, so definitely that'll be part of my story as I kind of go through the personal statement and through those activity descriptions. But thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Good luck.
Thanks.
Think about Application Academy if you haven't yet.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, man. All righty. This is fun. Again, if you want to join live, you can. I'll bring on someone on Instagram again. Application Academy enrollment closes tonight, Sunday, 4/2. If you are applying next cycle, we'll open up later this year. Hello there.
Hi. Thank you for taking me on.
Yeah.
So I just had a question. I am a bachelor's in nursing student right now.
Okay.
And I plan on switching to pre-med. I had a lot that happened during my pregnancy of my little one.
Okay.
And that's my why. Just seeing how the doctor saved me, my baby, and just how the impact that doctors have on lives in general.
Yeah. So your story, I'll rewind you a little bit. That's probably your pivot point in terms of the language that is fake and made up, and we use for personal statements. Because your seed, actually, in terms of, again, this language that we use, is actually what drew you to nursing.
Okay.
Right. So it's like, what drew you to nursing, and then the pivot point to go, oh, actually, I want to be a physician. And that was your pregnancy.
Okay. Okay, cool. So do you think it's frowned upon for somebody that's getting a bachelor's in nursing to apply to med school?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, the only thing that you have to be careful with is making sure that you're taking pre-med prereqs, right? Med school prereqs, because you as a bachelor of nursing will take biochemistry for nurses, and these like very allied health specific, nursing specific classes that med schools don't typically consider prereqs. So you just got to be careful about that.
Okay, cool. Okay, awesome. That's all the questions that I had. Thank you, Dr. Gray.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, there's always a lot of confusion around like, I'm a nursing student. Is that bad? And if you look at some of the acceptance data that the AAMC puts out, if you look at like allied health majors, they typically have, at least last time I looked, a lower acceptance rate. And so a lot of people kind of bastardize that information and go, oh, that's, if you're a nursing major, that's worse, right? And you can't interpret the data that way. It's just, the data is the data. It's just numbers. We can't make judgments based on the data. We don't know who these individual students are. We don't know that they're being discriminated against because of their major, right? There are things potentially like what I just mentioned to the student of, hey, if you apply to medical school with biochemistry for nurses, for nursing students, the med school isn't going to think you have biochemistry. So they're not going to like that, right? And there's lots of stuff there. So yeah, again, Application Academy closes tonight 4/2. That's today, April 2nd. If you are applying to medical school this year, Application Academy is 15 hours a week of office hours. You don't come to all of them. I'll read you off what our sessions this week look like. So our sessions this week are, my calendar opens. So this week, here, I'll share my screen. I'll show you guys. Window, calendar. Let me make sure I'm not sharing all of my Zoom links. Last time I shared all the Zoom links, and so we had to change them all. So Monday, the 3rd, we have activities. I'll share here. Activity review. And so how the sessions work is we have a link where you submit all of the things. So tomorrow morning is activities. The times that I'm showing right now, again, Instagram people here, I can see if I can flip my camera around and you can watch with me. So activities, all of these times are mountain time. So activities tomorrow, you submit your activity submissions and then we review them. You submit it with a code. Everything's anonymous unless you want to like raise your hand during the session if you happen to be there live. Most students don't come live. Most of our classes have about 10 or 15 people in them. We've never had an issue of too many people are on live with us. If that's ever an issue, then we'll figure that out. But that hasn't been an issue yet. So you submit your activity sessions, activity submissions, and then we review them live. You go back and watch them. They're typically up within a day. Tomorrow night is personal statement seeds at 8 p.m. Eastern. At 11 p.m. Eastern is our first, I'm going to put the kids to bed and then come back downstairs at 11 p.m. Eastern and do Q&A. That session will stay the same. All of the other sessions will rotate. So Tuesday morning or afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern is open Q&A with Courtney. So next week, if we look at the week after, you can see it rotates to secondary essays. So all of these rotate around. So if there's a specific time when you're working, you're like, oh, every Tuesday morning session or the first session on Tuesdays, I can't make it. Therefore, I'll never have my secondaries reviewed, right? That just doesn't happen because we rotate around. And so you can kind of see how everything rotates around. And then we have all of our TA office hours now, 4 TA office hours every week, which is awesome. So that's the schedule that we have for Application Academy. All right. Sai, hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I always watch your videos, but first time I'm hopping on live.
Yeah, what's going on?
Nothing much. So I'm studying for the MCAT now, and I'm I'm hearing like conflicting stuff about how MCAT scores are interpreted, and for Asian applicants or for
Yeah.
applicants who are not like disadvantaged.
Yeah.
I don't want to discriminate, but I'm just telling my situation.
Okay.
Like what MCAT score is competitive, both sections and overall.
Yeah. I don't think about MCAT scores in that way, so I'm not the right person to ask. The average MCAT for matriculants is a 511.9 according to AMCAS data. It's around a 504 for ACOMAS data. It's around a 511.7 or 8 for. Oh, my live video ended. I don't know why. Oh well, sorry friends. For TMDSAS data. So if we want to just round that up to 512 and go anything more than a 512 is above average, anything less than a 512 is below average for matriculants. I don't look at race and ethnicity in terms of like, oh, as an Asian applicant, you need a 514. The AAMC provides that data in terms of averages, but I don't know if we can make decisions based on that. So not the right person to ask.
Thank you for voicing your view. And also, like, how do they interpret? Because there's a lot of hype. There's some hype.
Hype around what?
About like, oh, we need like 520s to get into USMD and all that stuff.
I just told you the average score is a 511.9 with a standard deviation of 5.6 or 7. So you don't need a 520. The data shows that you don't need a 520. So yeah, that's Reddit and Student Doctor Network for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I can't stand Reddit Student Doctor Network discussing all that crap because it's fake news, friends. It's fake news. All right, I don't have to worry about Instagram anymore. Instagram kicked me, so I'll take that down. Just focus on my friends here. Hello there.
Hi, Dr. Gray. How are you?
Good, Deandra. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I've been watching your videos a lot, and I want to thank you because it's been extremely helpful. Kind of a story. I came from Cuba like 8 years ago.
Okay.
And so I decided to apply to med school, and I kind of like wanted to see how the system worked here in the US, and I became a certified nursing assistant. And that was back in 2015, and I did it for kind of 3 years. So I haven't done any clinical, like direct patient interactions since 2018. And as soon as I graduated, I started as a researchist. So I did apply this cycle and to med school, and I obtained one interview invite, and that was like in February.
We lost you, Deandra. All right. Come back with a better signal. Priya, hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi. Oh my God, I'm really excited that I'm actually talking to the Dr. Gray.
Dr. Gray.
But I had a question about time.
Keep going.
Yep. But I have a question about timeline advice because I'm a junior in college right now, getting ready to apply.
Okay.
But
and you're
getting
going to
close
use
to final
Application
season
Academy,
as well.
right?
Well, I've been looking at it for almost a month now, and I'm really close to.
Tonight's tonight.
I plan on using it because I haven't started my personal statement, and I read online like people take like months to work on it. So I wanted some advice on how to brainstorm and get things started.
You join Application Academy and you come to our sessions. You watch my videos on how to get started. Have you read this little book here, the Pre-Med Playbook Guide to a Medical School Personal Statement?
I haven't.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you join Application Academy, you'll get a PDF immediately. So, or you can just go to Amazon and get it. It takes a while. It takes some brainstorming. It takes some thought process. Remember, our stance for a personal statement, my stance for a personal statement is why do you want to be a doctor? So just trying to figure out what your story is there. But Application Academy will allow you to submit parts of your personal statement for live review. You don't have to be there live. You just watch the recording after. If you want to be there live, great. If you can be there live, awesome. But it'll allow you to get feedback on your essays. This tells you everything that you should be doing. And then Application Academy will give you feedback on what you are actually doing. Because a lot of people think they're following my advice. And then I'm like, no, that's not my advice. So Application Academy isn't just teaching what's in here. It's actually helping you implement it in your actual writing.
Perfect. That's wonderful to hear. And I did have one more question.
Yes.
So my clinical experiences, I have a lot of research experience, but my clinical experience has been kind of difficult because I started college during the COVID pandemic. And now I'm getting ready to apply. So some of the things that I've done for like clinical experience are like, helping take blood pressure measurements for like homeless individuals. Interning, it's unpaid, but it's an internship position with like a podiatrist. And I was wondering if these would be considered clinical experiences.
What's the thing that you're doing with the podiatrist? You cut off there for a second.
Yeah, so what I do as a podiatrist, as an intern in the podiatry clinic is like I room patients. I talk to them about like their concerns, as well as like help set up for like, like
you're acting as a medical assistant.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, that's clinical experience.
And it's not going to be like viewed differently that it's a podiatrist and not like an MD.
But podiatrists are the closest thing that you can get to an MD or DO than anything else out there. So I think you'll be fine.
Perfect. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yep. Good luck. And come check out Application Academy because we close the doors tonight.
I will. Thank you so much for all the advice.
You're welcome. Bye. Just a reminder, we do have FAP discounts. If you are eligible for FAP through the AAMC or through ACOM, you just submit your paperwork and you should get an email almost immediately. I'm a tech nerd, so I have some automation running to make sure that you submit us the right stuff, and then we go from there. Hello, Deandra, back again. So, can you hear me? Oh, signal's still not great, Deandra. All right, we gotta get Deandra back on. Deandra, your connection just isn't great, so keep trying. There's no one else right now in the studio to come on live. I'll paste the link again here. And we'll get those on. I like doing that. We use the same platform for weekly pre-med office hours that go live on YouTube, but we never bring on guests. I wonder if we should start bringing on guests. I would like it. All right. I'm looking at some questions here. Does my advice work for dental school apps? It does. I get lots of emails from students going, I got into dental school. Thank you. Yes, it does work. Arya, hello. Are you there? Are you there? Arya's like, peace out. I don't actually want to come on. This was the question. I have a 2.8 GPA. I've not yet taken the meat. The MCAT, but I've also been misdiagnosed and turns out that I have a learning disability. What advice do you have? Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you should, and I offer this to students all the time. If they're struggling and they can't figure out why, I'm like, have you ever been tested for dyslexia? Ever been tested for any sort of learning disability? And they're like, no. I'm like, you should be. So make sure that you're using all the tools, all of the accommodations necessary. Get good grades, have a good upward trend with your grades. Your final cumulative number may not be super sexy, but if you can get your last 30, 40, 50 credit hours as close to a 4.0 as possible, amazing. That's great. And then go take the MCAT and make sure that you fight tooth and nail for the accommodations that you need. Patrick, when I'm determining my school list, aside from looking at their matriculating stats, which I don't recommend, what other aspects of med school should I be looking into? Go to premedyears.com/437. Premedyears.com. I knew how to type. Premedyears.com/437 is an episode all about building a school list. And also Application Academy. You can bring us your school list and during one of our open Q&As, and we can go, hey, here's some things to think about. All right, let's see. Will Application Academy look over primaries, secondaries? Yes, as I showed here. You can see we have Tuesday, the 28th. That was last week. So let me pull up this upcoming week's information. Right here. So we have personal statement seeds on Monday, activities on Tuesday. We have activities on Monday as well, open Q&A Tuesday. We have essays, other essays. So these are like TMDSAS, optional required essay, MD, PhD applicants. If you have your like research essay that you want to submit, institutional action essay, other impactful experiences essay, non-traditional essay from TMDSAS. That's what the other essays is for. Personal statement, watering events, TA office hours, TA office hours, TA office hours, TA office hours, Wednesday, Thursday, and on Sunday. Personal statement conclusions, personal statement watering events, secondary essays with me on Friday, and then interview prep with Dr. Scott Wright. And if you look at this, right, Dr. Scott Wright here and Dr. Scott Wright here, former director of admissions at UT Southwestern. He used to run all of TMDSAS. We have Courtney Lewis, who most recently was the director of admissions at Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine. She runs 4 sessions a week, typically, of Application Academy. So you're getting former directors of admissions helping you with your application, doing mock interviews with you, helping you all along the way. So let's try Deandra one more time. Hello there. Deandra. Hello. I'm sorry, Deandra. Your connection, as soon as we bring you on, just goes downhill. I wonder. Yeah, it doesn't look like I can. I can change that. All right. Anyway. All right, my friends, I think I will end here. Lots of great questions, tons of great guests today. Again, applicationacademy.com. It's the best thing we do. It's one of the most cost-effective things that we do. We charge up to $480 an hour for one-on-one advising. It's super expensive, and only a very small percentage of students can afford that. We know that, but we charge that and people pay for it. And it supports everything else that we do here. So all the students coming on saying, thank you, Dr. Gray, for all the amazing free resources. It's because we charge a lot of money to one-on-one students. And I don't apologize for it. And we offer Application Academy, which is $500 for over 500 hours of sessions. So come check it out, applicationacademy.com. 15 office hours a week, live office hours a week. You don't have to come to every one. You pick and choose based on your schedule, based on the topics, what you're working on. You can submit stuff to watch later. Most students don't come live to sessions. They submit their essays, they get their stuff reviewed, they watch all of the sessions and the videos that we have recorded to help them get a better idea of how to make the best application, write the best application possible for them. All right, my friends, I will end here. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. If you have any questions about Application Academy, email me, ryan@mappd.com, and I will try to get to them as soon as possible. Bye-bye.